My girlfriend of 5 years asked for a break to find herself. I kicked her out of my house that same day. When she came back begging 3 weeks later, I found out she'd been with another guy and left them both speechless. I'm 29 years old, working it for a pretty big company here in the city, and like 6 months ago, I ended a 5 year relationship in the weirdest way possible. I mean, it wasn't that we ended badly, it wasn't that we fought or anything like that. Sophia just decided she needed a break to find herself or some bullshit like that, and well, here I am telling the story because there are still people who tell me I was too harsh, that I should have given her another chance. But the truth is, I don't regret at all how I handled everything. I met Sophia when I was like 24 years old. She was 23. We met at a networking event that my company organized. You know, those things where they force you to go and socialize with people from other companies and basically pretend you care. She worked in marketing for a startup, and when we started talking, we just connected. You know what I mean? It was one of those conversations where you lose track of time and suddenly it's 11 at night and you realize you've been talking for hours. We started dating like 2 weeks after that and everything flowed super naturally. Nothing forced, nothing dramatic, just two people who got along well and enjoyed being together. The first few years were great, honestly. I had bought my house like 6 months before meeting her. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. A 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with a decent backyard. And like a year and a half into dating, Sophia started spending more and more time there until she basically lived with me, although technically she still had her own apartment with a roommate. We never made the official move, like we never sat down to say, okay, now you officially live here. But there came a point where she only went to her apartment like once every 2 weeks to pick up mail or clothes she had left there. I was fine with that. It worked for us. Or at least that's what I thought. The thing is that around the 4th year, I started noticing that Sophia would get a little weird when I mentioned the future. I don't know. Normal things like planning a vacation for next summer or talking about changing the kitchen floor, and she would kind of tense up or change the subject. At the time, I didn't give it much importance because, well, not everyone is good at planning ahead, and I thought maybe I was being too intense about it. My best friend Jordan would tell me that maybe I should talk to her directly about what she expected from the relationship, but I was one of those people who thought things should just flow naturally, you know, without pressure or forced uncomfortable conversations. The 5th year came, and I was in a good place professionally. They had promoted me to team leader. I was earning pretty well, and I had started seriously thinking about proposing to Sophia, like I already had the ring in mind, and everything. I had been looking at options online and talking to a jeweler that a coworker had recommended. But before I could do anything, before even buying the damn ring, Sophia dropped the bomb on me one night during dinner. It was a Tuesday. I remember it perfectly because on Tuesdays I always got home early from work and cooked something. That night I had made pasta with chicken. Nothing fancy, but we liked it. We were eating at the dining table, talking about random things. I think I was telling her about a new project at work, and suddenly she puts down her fork and tells me, Marcus, we need to talk. And I internally thought, okay, here it comes. She's going to tell me she's pregnant or something. But no, what she said was completely different. She told me she felt she needed time for herself, that the last 5 years had been incredible, but that she felt she had lost part of her identity, being in a relationship, that she needed to explore who she was as an independent person. Basically the whole classic, I need to find myself speech. I sat there processing what I had just heard, and the first thing I thought was, seriously? After 5 years, now you need to find yourself? But I didn't say that. What I said was something like, okay, and what does that mean exactly? And she explained that she wanted a break. Not to end the relationship completely, but to take distance. Not see each other for a while. Basically do her life without me in the picture. And that's when something in my brain clicked, like a clarity I had never had before, and I asked her super calmly, so you want to keep living here in my house while you have your break and do your thing? She was quiet for a moment and then said, well, I hadn't thought about that, and I told her, well, I have. If you want a break from this relationship, then you also need a break from this house, because this is my house. I pay the mortgage, and I'm not going to be your plan B while you decide if there's something better out there. I think she expected me to beg her or cry or ask her to reconsider, but the truth is, in that moment, I felt a weird calm, like everything finally made sense. I told her I respected her decision, but that if she was going to take a break, then she had to leave the house. I wasn't going to have her living with me while she explored her single life or whatever she planned to do. Sophia got super defensive and told me I was being dramatic, that a break didn't mean we were breaking up, that she just needed space. And I responded, "That's fine, but that space can't be in my house. If you want space, then go find it somewhere else." That night was super tense. She went to sleep in the guest room, and I stayed in the living room watching TV, without really watching anything, just thinking about how we had gotten to this point. The next day, when I got home from work, she had packed several suitcases and told me she was going to stay with her sister for a while, that she hoped I understood this wasn't permanent, that she just needed to clear her mind. And I just nodded and helped her load the suitcases into the car. The first few weeks, after she left, were weird. I'm not gonna lie. The house felt empty in a different way, like quieter than normal. And there were moments where I'd see something on TV or something would happen at work, and my first instinct was to tell Sophia, but then I'd remember that she had decided she needed her space. Jordan would come over often. He'd stay to watch the game or bring pizza, and he'd always ask me how I was handling it. And the truth is, I was fine, like genuinely fine. I wasn't faking or anything. I think what happened was that when she asked for the break, something in me just turned off, like my brain had decided, okay, it's over, and there was no going back. Like 2 weeks after she left, I started hearing things. You know how people are in neighborhoods? Everyone knows each other and everyone talks. My neighbor Patricia, who's kind of gossipy but has always been nice to me, stopped me one day when I was taking out the trash and told me in that little voice of, "Oh, poor thing," that I hate Marcus Honey. I saw Sophia the other day at the cafe with a guy, and they looked very comfortable. I didn't give it much importance at the time. I mean, technically, she had asked for a break to find herself. If that included going out with other guys, well, that was her decision. But I'm not going to deny it. Pissed me off a little. Not because I cared who she was dating, but because it confirmed what I already suspected. That the whole finding herself thing was basically code for, I want to see what else is out there. Like 3 weeks passed since she left. 3 weeks where I basically continued with my normal life, working, hanging out with friends, seeing my sister on weekends, and one day I get a text from Sophia. It was long, like one of those paragraph-and-a-half texts where she basically said she missed me, that she had been thinking a lot, that maybe she had made a mistake, and that she'd like for us to meet, to talk. I read the message like 3 times, and all I was thinking was, seriously? Already? 3 weeks and you already want to come back? I responded super simple, told her we could meet at the park near the house, the same park where we used to walk on Sundays, and we agreed to meet that Saturday afternoon. Saturday came and I went to the park. She was already there, sitting on a bench. She looked nervous, and when she saw me arrive, she stood up and gave me a hug that I didn't really reciprocate. I just stood there waiting for her to let go. We sat down and she started talking. She told me she had made a mistake, that she realized what we had was special, that she had been dating other people. Yes, she admitted that, but that none of those connections compared to ours, and basically she was asking me to get back together, to forget the whole break thing, and go back to how we were before. I listened to her without interrupting, and when she finished talking, I stayed silent for a moment because I wanted to make sure I said exactly what I thought without sounding angry or resentful. I told her, Sophia, I heard you and I understand what you're saying, but the answer is no. She looked at me like she hadn't understood correctly and asked me what I meant by no. And I explained that, when she asked for the break, I respected her decision. I gave her the space she asked for, but that break for me meant the end of the relationship, that I wasn't going to be waiting to see if things didn't work out with other people so she could come back to me as a second option. I told her I deserved to be with someone who was sure they wanted to be with me, not with someone who needed to explore other options to realize what they had. She started crying right there in the park, telling me I was being unfair, that she never saw me as a second option, that she just needed that time to realize what she really wanted, and I told her I understood that, but that my decision was made, that I wished her the best, but that what we had ended that night when she asked for the break. I got up from the bench and told her to take care of herself, and I walked back to my car while she was still sitting there crying. It'll sound harsh, but in that moment, I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. I felt clarity. I felt like I was doing the right thing for me. The following days, I started gathering Sophia's things that were still at the house. It wasn't much because she had taken most of it when she left, but there were things in the closet, bathroom products, some decorations she had bought, stuff like that. I packed it all in boxes and left it at her sister's house on a Tuesday afternoon. When I knew Sophia would be at work, I didn't want another dramatic encounter or anything like that. I just wanted to close that chapter completely. Her sister opened the door, saw me with the boxes and understood immediately, thanked me for bringing them and closed the door without saying much more. I thought that was the end of it, that Sophia would understand the message and move on with her life. But no. Like 6 weeks after our first break, the conversation in the park and all that, I get a message on Facebook from a guy named Tyler. I had no idea who he was, but his message said he needed to talk to me about Sophia, that it was important. Normally, I would have ignored something like that, but something told me I should respond. So I told him, okay, we could meet, and we agreed on a Starbucks near my work. Tyler turned out to be a guy my age, maybe a year or two older. He looked like a normal guy, professional, nothing weird. And when we sat down with our coffees, he told me something that honestly didn't surprise me as much as it should have. He told me he had been seeing Sophia for the past few weeks, that they had met on a dating app and things were going well, until one day he checked her phone. Yes, he admitted that wasn't right, but said he had his suspicions, and found messages between Sophia and me, messages where she told me she missed me and wanted to get back together. Messages that were sent while she was dating him. Tyler told me that when he confronted her about the messages, she explained that I was her ex, but that things between us had ended badly, that I wouldn't leave her alone, and that's why I was writing to her. Basically painted me as the obsessive ex who wouldn't let her move on. But Tyler didn't completely believe her and decided to investigate a little. He looked me up on social media and realized from my posts and photos that the story didn't add up, that if I were the obsessive ex, I'd probably be posting dramatic or sad things, but I was literally living my normal life, posting photos of outings with friends, house projects, stuff like that. So he decided to contact me to hear my version of the facts. I told him the whole story, from the break to the conversation in the park, and Tyler just shook his head like saying, I knew it. He told me he had also decided to end things with Sophia after discovering the messages, that he didn't want to be with someone who was clearly playing two people at the same time, keeping options open in case one didn't work out. Before we left, I thanked him for contacting me, told him I appreciated his honesty and hoped he'd find someone who treated him better, and he told me the same. After that conversation with Tyler, Sophia started bombarding me with messages, calls, emails, everything. It was like she had gone into desperation mode, telling me she needed to talk to me urgently, that it was all a misunderstanding, that Tyler was lying, that she had never lied to me about anything. I ignored most of the messages, only responded to one telling her to please stop contacting me, that what we had was over and there was nothing more to talk about. But she didn't stop. Calls came at any hour. She'd leave voicemails crying, saying she had made the biggest mistake of her life, that I was the love of her life, and to please give her a chance to explain. One night, I think it was a Friday around 9, I was watching a movie in the living room when I heard someone knocking on the door, insistently. I looked out the window and saw Sophia's car parked in front, and I thought, great, just what I needed. I opened the door, and there she was, with red eyes from crying, makeup running, looking honestly terrible. And before I could say anything, she started talking super fast, saying she was so sorry, that she had been an idiot, that Tyler had misinterpreted everything, that she never stopped loving me, basically a monologue of desperate apologies. I let her talk for a couple of minutes without interrupting, and when she finally stopped to catch her breath, I told her, Sophia, you need to leave. I'm not going to change my mind. It doesn't matter how many times you come here or how many messages you send me. What we had is over and it's not coming back. She tried to touch my arm and I took a step back, told her I respected that she was going through a difficult time, but that wasn't my responsibility, that she had made her decisions and now had to live with the consequences. She tried to keep talking, but I simply closed the door. I heard her standing there for a few minutes, and then I heard her crying on her way to her car. She started it and left. After that night, the messages gradually decreased. I still got the occasional text every couple of weeks, but they were calmer, less desperate, more like just wanted to know how you are or hope you're doing well, and I simply didn't respond. Eventually, they stopped coming completely. I think after like 2 months without receiving any response from me, she finally understood nothing was going to happen. Meanwhile, I was continuing with my life. Better than ever, honestly. At work, I was doing excellent. My team had completed a huge project that earned us all a decent bonus. I had started going to the gym more often, like 5 times a week, and I felt in better physical shape than ever. I was planning a trip to Europe with Jordan for the summer, something we had always wanted to do but had never made concrete, and we finally had the dates and tickets purchased. My sister came to visit me one weekend and told me I looked different, more relaxed, happier, and that she was proud of how I had handled the whole situation with Sophia. She told me many men would have gone back with her for convenience or fear of being alone, but that I had shown I knew what I was worth. Like 3 months after that last encounter at my door, Patricia, the gossipy neighbor, stopped me again when I was cutting the grass. She told me she had heard through the grapevine. Didn't tell me exactly from whom, but I guess through neighborhood gossip, that Sophia had lost her job. Something related to company cutbacks or poor performance. She wasn't sure, and that she had moved to an apartment in a not-so-good area of the city, one of those old complexes where rent is cheap but everything is falling apart. Patricia told me, with that poor, thing face, like expecting me to show concern or sadness. But honestly, I felt nothing. Not happiness that things were going badly for her, but not sadness either. Just complete indifference. Sometimes when I'm driving through the city, I think about the possibility of running into her somewhere, at a cafe or the supermarket or something, and I wonder what I'd do. Probably just nod at her and continue with my thing. There's no resentment or anger, she's just not part of my life anymore, and that's fine. Jordan tells me I handled everything like a champ. That many guys would have fallen into the trap of getting back with the ex when she came begging, but that I stayed firm in my decision. And I guess he's right. The thing is, I've never regretted how I handled everything. From the moment I told her she had to leave the house if she wanted her break, to the last time I closed the door when she came crying. It wasn't that I wanted to be cruel or get revenge or anything like that. It was simply that I understood something important in that moment. That I can't be with someone who sees me as an option, as a plan B for when things don't work out with others. I deserve to be with someone who's sure they want to be with me, without doubts, without needing to explore other possibilities to realize what they have. Like a month ago, I was organizing old papers in the house office and found a photo of Sophia and me on a vacation. We took to the beach. I think it was in our 3rd year together. We were smiling, hugging, looking genuinely happy. I looked at it for a moment, remembering that trip. It had been fun, relaxing. One of those moments where you think things are going to last forever. But then I simply put it in a box with other old things and kept organizing. I didn't feel nostalgia or desire to go back to those times. It was just like looking at a photo from a stage of my life that's already over. Now I'm in a good place, focused on my career, on my friendships, on my hobbies, and if I eventually meet someone new, well, great, but I'm not desperate to fill a void or anything like that. I learned that being alone isn't the same as being lonely, that I can be perfectly fine without a partner, and that when the right person comes along, it'll be someone who doesn't need breaks or to explore other options to realize they want to be with me. Sophia probably thinks I was too harsh, that I didn't give her a second chance when she was clearly regretful, but that's because she still doesn't understand it wasn't about punishing her or getting revenge. It was about respecting myself and not accepting crumbs from someone who had all my love and loyalty for 5 years and decided it wasn't enough. The other day, Jordan and I were having beers on my patio, planning the final details of the Europe trip, and he asked me if I ever thought about Sophia, if I wondered what would have happened if I had given her another chance. I told him honestly, no. That when I look back, I see the situation super clearly. I see someone who didn't value what they had until they lost it, and that's not the type of person I want to build a future with. He said I was right, that it was better this way, and we toasted to that, to knowing when to walk away and not look back.